Welcome to Forgotten Video Store, the podcast where we go to the rental store of the same name in North Hollywood and pick out one of their unique movies that you can't find anywhere else on the planet. I'm your host, David Murto, aka Daddy Big Cup. And my guest this time is an author and a cultural commentator whose novels include The Pandemics That Romance the Bubble We're In and the brand new science fiction murder mystery Policing Utopia. Alex Mell-Taylor is here! Alex, thank you so much for going to the video store with me.
It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. I love movies and I love schlock. Let's get into it.
You picked out a really interesting movie today called Mrs. Doubtfire for Presidentress.
Yes.
From 2026, the legacy sequel to the kids' favorite Mrs. Doubtfire from 1993.
Would you believe that this is actually the second misbegotten legacy sequel to a Chris Columbus kids movie from the 1990s that I've covered on this podcast?
I can believe that. I can, just because it's gold. It's comedy gold. You know, you gotta strike the iron while it's hot.
So we had a previous episode that was called Nursing Home Alone, which was a long delayed sequel to Home Alone where the wet bandits were in a nursing home.
Brilliant.
Wonderful story. But Mrs. Doubtfire for Presidentress, this movie was made in 2026. Now remember, Robin Williams died in 2014. When you picked out this tape and showed it to me in the video store, I thought, this doesn't make any sense. How can you have a Mrs. Doubtfire sequel without Robin Williams?
Well, it has Robin Williams.
In a way.
Yes, this is the reason why no one's heard of this movie, is because it was buried. It's because Robin Williams was made with AI.
Okay, Disney through their now subsidiary branch 20th Century, produced this movie in coordination with OpenAI and their program.
Sora, Sora.
Okay, like you were explaining, a AI recreation of Robin Williams, which is very ghoulish, and I personally hate this kind of shit where they, the Star Wars movie where they brought back Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, or this kind of, it's just gross, and it always looks like shit, and this movie's no exception. And I think that the people at Disney must have agreed, because this movie, and they won't admit this in public, but the failure of this movie is why they canceled their contract with OpenAI, right?
I think that's true. I will say there is some unintended comedic gold, I feel, with the AI, where you'll see Robin Williams and their face will sort of glitch out.
I found that more disturbing than funny.
Just Robin Williams is trying to be consolatory, and then you just see their eye get a little bit bigger.
Right, or he hugs a character and his body passes through them, kind of like a ghost almost.
Yeah.
The other thing is Mrs. Doubtfire was 93, so that was 33 years ago. And yes. Robin Williams doesn't look hardly any older than he did in that movie. They didn't age him up.
This movie makes no sense. I just want to clarify. I did not pick this movie out because of the plot. Well, okay. I did.
Yeah.
I did because it's ridiculous. Robin Williams is running for president.
Yeah, for Presidentress, which was it's why do we need to gender the term president? But it is a funny word, Presidentress.
It reminds me of a succubus or an incubus. That's what's going in the back of my mind when I heard it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that.
Not really. Yeah, should we get into the movie a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it.
At the end of the first Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams' character, Mrs. Doubtfire, has a TV show, Euphegenia's House, that's a kid's show that's a big hit. And in the beginning of the sequel, we realized this show has been running for decades, and a whole generation has grown up with it, loving this character of Mrs. Doubtfire. And in one of her latest episodes, she just takes a moment to decry the current president's policy to dismantle the Department of Education, because Mrs. Doubtfire has always been an advocate for education. And then you get a social media montage of stuff from Blue Sky or Twitter or Instagram, and different people are Mrs. Doubtfire should run for president. And it's starts as kind of a joke, right? I think it's not too long you realize that people don't realize that Mrs. Doubtfire is a character. People think she's real. He's kept his secret identity secret all these years.
Which, on the one hand, feels ridiculous, but also living in 2026 right now, I can definitely see many people believing that. Unironically, I feel like there are people that believe that characters are real.
This tension between like not being able to be sure what's real is kind of interesting thematically with the movie because of the AI element of it. It's like people have been fooled by AI like this in the real world, like you were saying. Meanwhile, Daniel Hillard, who's the Robin Williams male character, his oldest daughter, who is returning from the first movie, we learn she's a teacher, but because of all the education cuts, all they do in school is teach kids how to use AI, because they're like, it can do math for you, it can write for you, it can do anything for you. Just learn how to use AI and you'll get by fine, which is insane. And the character thinks it's bad and is like, we need to get our funding back. We need to teach kids real skills, which is interesting because the movie seems to be arguing against AI, and yet the movie is using a ton of AI to reproduce Robin Williams. So it's like, what is this movie's perspective?
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where the movie's having the creatives are in tension with like Disney, I guess, when it comes to that. Because I think of like Amazon and The Boys. The Boys, the superhero show, for anyone, spoilers, is about like a business sort of taking over American democracy. And it's produced by Amazon.
So it's like they're criticizing their parent company, basically.
Yeah, you see that a lot. And I think Disney just thought that this was they just sort of like, okay, you can write whatever you want.
Right, because they think like they're unstoppable. They're like, no one's going to beat us anyway, so have your little show.
I found the movie really cute, and I found Hillard's daughter, she was pretty convincing as like a teacher. Like she had that one monologue where, or she's not quite in tears, but you can tell she wants to cry, but she can't like teach her class.
Right,
and like one of her students is genuinely trying to learn, and she can't help them.
Right,
and it's like you really feel for her in that moment.
Yeah. And we should say this, the daughter is not Mara Wilson. It's the other one. It's the older one. Mara Wilson declined to be in this movie because she thought it would be disrespectful to act in a Mrs. Doubtfire movie without the real Robin Williams, which, you know, is commendable. I like Mara Wilson. You like Mara Wilson? She seems cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really respectable position.
We get Robin Williams as Daniel Hillard, the male version. He's going to work, and it turns out he has two jobs, right? Like he's Mrs. Doubtfire, like one day a week they knock out like 5 episodes or whatever. And then the rest of the week, he's in politics, actually. He's working as a campaign manager
for a Southern governor who's running for president,
played by Colin Farrell, doing a really good, Irish actor, but doing a really good American Southern voice. He's a, straight-laced conservative type. Robin Williams goes in and they're having their morning meeting and stuff. Is like, this campaign is basically unstoppable. We're running. No one on the other side is coming close to our numbers. Like, we should be able to win this, no problem. And Colin Farrell is like scrolling Twitter or whatever, and he's like,
but what about what's happening in California with that old lady?
Daniel Hillard says, oh, what old lady? I haven't seen this. And Colin Farrell shows him, and it turns out Mrs. Doubtfire has gotten enough signatures to get on the ballot in California, just like a grassroots campaign. Even without her involvement, people are like volunteering her, and this is the first Daniel's hearing about it. He's like, huh?
Robin Williams is really good at faces, or was really good at faces.
Yeah.
It's so weird talking about him,
right? Because it is in some ways it is just recycling his older performances, so in that way it works, but it's not really him doing it.
Exactly. And he does that like the like face that was probably taken from Patch Adams or something.
Well, first he's like, I gotta shut this down. I gotta go as Mrs. Doubtfire on my show and tell people to stop trying to put me on the ballot. But then he like has his daughter over for dinner, right? Remember this part? She explains to him, I'm failing these kids. They're not learning anything except how to do input in AI. I talked to the superintendent, I talked to the city council, and everyone was saying, like, we're never going to get this funding restored. Like, this is just the way it's gone now. You'd basically have to be the president to make any changes at this point. And she tells her father this, and you see him kind of take that in and thinking, like, maybe there is something to this Mrs. Doubtfire for Presidentress movement.
I know this was very fan servicey, But out of that monologue, when they go and they get the gay couple who in universe, I believe is his brother.
Right, Harvey
And
Firestein. Mm-hmm.
Harvey Firestein. And that was really cute. Like, I know it was just like that typical thing of like, well, if you remember the first movie, you're going to remember this. But seeing like Mrs. Doubtfire being remade into like a different presidential personas, you know, there was like sort of like a Hillary Clinton like
right, the
pantsuit
yeah,
look.
but almost like
And
a
then,
George Washington haircut, which I thought was cool.
yes.
And now I'm remembering there was another Robin Williams movie years ago that's a little similar. It was called Man of the Year, where he played basically a Jon Stewart analog who was pressured into running for president. And it's actually pretty similar to like Mrs. Doubtfire. So I wonder if they were, you know, inspired by that movie at all.
Do you think AI wrote this too?
Almost certainly.
Oh no. Now I feel bad suggesting it, but I still think it's...
No, it's worth checking out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out as a piece of history, but also I find it really, really funny. I have to check out Man of the Year because I've never seen it.
I haven't either, and I think it wasn't well received, but, you know, any Robin Williams you can get where it was really him and not an AI version, you know. Zelda Williams came out recently and said people need to stop doing all this AI shit with my dad. Like, it's creepy and it hurts my feelings. Maybe that was part of why this movie got shelved, is after she said that, and Disney's like, oh fuck, we just made a whole movie with an AI Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mrs. Doubtfire on her regular episode does like the big announcement in her new persona, like the presidential version, where she, you know, accepts the support and says, I will be running.
She's giving this heart-wrenching speech about why she's running for president.
And basically she's like, I believe in 3 things. I believe in early childhood education. And like the crowd's like, yeah. I believe in universal childcare. Yeah. And I believe in nationwide marijuana legalization. And everyone's like, huh?
And then you have like a couple stoners in the background.
Yeah, dude.
Was that Cheech and Chong like in the back?
Are they both alive still? It could have been them.
Oh my god! How much AI has this movie?
It could have been AI, yeah. But anyway, you get to see Colin Farrell in his meeting with Daniel Hillard, which is the male version of Robin Williams.
We gotta stop Mrs. Doubtfire. The younger generation has been watching her for years. They're all gonna go for her. Her get out the vote efforts are insane.
And Robin Williams, the male version, is saying, Mrs. Doubtfire, isn't she English? And that's like the light bulb moment. So like Colin Farrell's new thing is he's going after Mrs. Doubtfire, saying, she's not a real American. Show me the birth certificate.
Oh, yeah. Which I thought was pretty brave for a Disney property. I wasn't expecting them to go there, but I guess because it's like England, it's so far.
Yeah, it's not
out.
It's not a racist thing when he's saying she was born in England because she has an English accent or whatever. But also kind of funny because Colin Farrell was not born in the United States, but that like his character was, obviously.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's almost like a wink wink. It's one of those things where you have to suspend disbelief with the movie logic. You're like, well, this sort of would get resolved in the paperwork filing of like filing the thing, but you're just like, no, that's not the point of this movie. The point of this movie is for Mrs. Doubtfire to do typical campaign things, to eat the hot dog at the Iowa State Fair.
And she like kisses a baby, and the baby has like the little makeup kiss on his cheek. I thought that was cute.
That was really cute. But I loved how like they sort of had like real politicians come in and out of it. Like I think they had like a Stacey Abrams cameo.
Were these real or were those all AI too?
I think they were real because I think Stacey Abrams apologized.
Oh, interesting. She was in Star Trek and stuff. She does like pop culture-y stuff.
Yeah.
But what about when he was like Harvey Firestein is like his campaign manager or whatever, and he's like,
Madam Doubtfire, you got a call from President Obama.
And he like picks up the phone and, hello. Oh, yes. Oh, it's been wonderful, except they're asking for my birth certificate. And Obama's like, I've been there.
That was really funny. Harvey Firestein as campaign manager just inspired not only like the dressing montages, but I thought like debate night. So to clarify, like debate night like Robin Williams, who's also the campaign manager, is having to go like back and forth, and
Right.
it's like constantly taking pee breaks. And Harvey Fierstein, I feel like, has a good one-liner in there where he's just like, you know, when you're old, sometimes you just have to go.
Mhm.
Like, we've all been there, like really leaning into the camp and the age aspect of it.
Yeah, I thought the debate sequence was the best part of the movie because it's like kind of that classic Mrs. Doubtfire stuff. Because not only does Mrs. Doubtfire have to be on the debate stage, but Robin Williams, as the campaign manager for Colin Farrell, has to be in the CNN interview at the same time. So the stuff they have going on in the debate stage, you see Mrs. Doubtfire's platform about, we got to bring back education for the kids. We got to teach them skills to help them succeed so we can beat China at the newest inventions or whatever.
And then Colin Farrell's character saying,
No, we need less education. We can't be teaching kids about the genocide of indigenous people or slavery or internment camps or racial segregation or Jim Crow because it hurts their feelings. And he's also like, we can't have safe spaces and trigger warnings to protect a bunch of sensitive snowflakes.
He's kind of like contradicting himself a lot, but
Yes.
that's like one of those sequences where Mrs. Doubtfire is like, I think it's time for this old lady to change her diaper. And because she's old, she's like 90 years old or something, and her character is, at least in the movie. She rushes out and changes real quick, and then it's Robin Williams in front of the CNN cameras, and he's saying how good Colin Farrell's doing, and he's embarrassing Mrs. Doubtfire, making her look like a clown or whatever, and then he has to rush back into the bathroom and change back in. Mrs. Doubtfire comes back on stage. Oh, thank you so much. My bladder is so tight.
I really like that. I didn't think it was going to work because it's like a debate stage is so different from a bathroom scene like in the restaurant in the first movie.
You got to heighten when you do one of these sequels, right?
Exactly. Like, I liked also that you had all the news commentators where you had the different channels trying to decide what the bathroom break meant, because they didn't say any of the exact real world channels, but you had like the Fox News parallel that was just like candidate Doubtfire cowardly
runs
like,
from the stage,
debate, and then you had I guess the more MSNBC analog being Mrs. Doubtfire champion
UTI avoidance skill.
Yeah, UTI avoidance. That was right. It was really funny. I like that they leaned into the commentary of the bathroom break itself, and it allowed it not to be so serious about politics, because they could have had like an actual political debate, but that would have been funny,
right? Yeah.
And I like that they made it about like the bathroom breaks themselves.
And they kind of got into it, like Colin Farrell's character kind of got into it. It's like,
she doesn't have the temperament to be president. She doesn't have the look to be president.
Little sexist, but he's like,
she's gonna get all worked up and she's gonna get too emotional. She's gonna be too emotional to be president.
Screaming this kind of stuff.
Yes. And he was like basically throwing a tantrum. Harvey Fierstein had a really funny one-liner because he was also doing the press circuit at the same time. Someone needs a nappy or something. It was really funny.
Yeah. And he's like trying to spin like Mrs. Doubtfire is more she has more life experience, you know, because she's so old, and that's like a big issue in the campaign is her age. At one point, Mrs. Doubtfire like leaves the stage again, and she like forgets to take off the wig when she goes as Robin Williams to the press gaggle interview, and they're like, what's with the wig? And he's like freaks out because he's like, oh, I forgot to say it. And he's like, he tries to play it off like, this is how dumb Mrs. Doubtfire looks, you know, like he's making fun of her or something. It's like, whew, they didn't catch me this time. But really good sequence.
Yes, I really liked it. It was the highlight of the movie because it gets more serious after the debates. Because the first half of the movie is like you're going through the highs of like the campaigning, and it's cute and it's funny, but the secret gets out,
right?
Because there's a twist in the movie where you learn that the in-universe movie explanation is that the court case in the first movie where Hillard gets caught and
it's
his
like
wife,
the divorce, the custody battle where they go into like his real identity, basically.
yeah, with Sally Fields,
Right.
and there's basically a restraining order, and he can't see his kids, and that was sealed in the logic of the universe, which is why Hillard is able to run as Mrs. Doubtfire in this timeline, and it gets leaked.
Well, it's like a Freedom of Information Act request by some intrepid reporter, but basically, like, it comes out that Euphegenia Doubtfire at that point in time was Daniel Hillard. So then there's like a transphobic element to Colin Farrell's campaign. They're like, this guy is a liar, like he's actually a trans woman. Then it leads to a really emotional kind of climax of the movie, right? Where Mrs. Doubtfire takes the stage. I have something I need to tell the American people and stuff, and then takes off the face and is like, I'm not trans. I was lying, but I want to make something very clear. Trans people are not lying, but I was.
Yes.
And I am not really Mrs. Doubtfire. I am Daniel Hillard. And they're like, you're the campaign manager for Colin Farrell. And so this is like a kind of a betrayal of the American people.
I found it very touching. He gets all of these letters, basically, about what it meant from, like, all of these, like, kids who are trans all across America. They send him letters, and it sort of goes full circle, where he got in this for education and weed legalization, but mostly education,
Right,
because of his daughter. And so he basically takes himself out of it, and he realizes that, yes, he was lying, but it's more than him at this point. The other guy does kind of suck, and he is fighting for something that is better, which is like protecting all of these kids.
It gets to election night. You know, he's kind of despondent, and the whole election, the returns watching party at the Doubtfire campaign there's kind of a down mood there as it becomes apparent that Colin Farrell's character is going to win.
Yeah.
What happens is he gets a call. Can you come outside? There's someone here that needs to see you. He goes out, and it's Colin Farrell's character says to Robin Williams, like,
we had a lot of disagreements, but I consider you a close friend from being my campaign manager. And I saw the response to the Doubtfire campaign, to the things you said. And I want to reinstate the Department of Education, and I want you to be the Secretary of Education. But I need you to be Secretary Doubtfire.
Robin Williams agrees, and also it's something you don't see in the real world, is like politics is usually reactionary. Like one side goes one way and the other takes the opposite direction. In this movie, like, Colin Farrell is like, if we work together, we can build like a new way. So he takes on the elements of Robin Williams's campaign that he thought resonated with people, like trans rights. He's like, we're going to work towards accepting of trans rights. And Mrs. Doubtfire's, you know, even though she's not trans, she's inspired a lot of trans people.
She's become this sort of trans icon almost accidentally, which is, again, it's movie logic, because that, as you're saying, that doesn't happen in real life where politicians decide to work together. But it is like, it tugs at your little heartstrings where you're like, oh, I wish I could live in this fantasy. I also would love to see a third movie where Robin Williams is the Secretary Doubtfire and is like Secretary of Education and is in Washington. I can see like a whole other movie that before it got canceled. Man, this movie's complicated. It's like, on the one hand, it's really touching. It's really sweet. You like most of the politics of it, even if it is like very Hollywood. But on the other hand, the AI stuff.
Yeah, that's, you can't get past that, really.
Yeah. I thought this was pretty ballsy of Disney to do. I was not expecting them to do sort of like a trans rights movie, but it's also not surprising they buried it.
Right. They always, it's like, that's kind of Disney's MO at a certain point, is like, they make a big deal about, we have this gay plot line in Elio or whatever, and then they cut it at the last minute.
Yeah, they're very good at that. Yeah, they're a corporation. But yeah, I'm thank you for joining me on this journey through this sort of like trash find of a movie. I love it. If anyone wants to see it, it's going to be really hard because
Right.
it has been.
It was it was canceled, but somehow a copy made its way to the Forgotten Video Store, as these things often do. Thanks so much for picking that out. To end out the show, I like to do something. It's called plugs and shout outs. So like anything you'd like to promote, I'll give you the opportunity to do that. And anything you want to shout out, like celebrate, just shine a light on, you can do that. For me personally, I want to shout out the good people at Charmin for somehow engineering a material that dissolves as soon as it touches an asshole. Ultra soft is too soft. Alex, you've got some stuff to promote, right? You got a new book.
Yeah. I have a new book and it's out.
Yeah.
And it's called Policing Utopia. It's a hope punk murder mystery set in a post-apocalyptic America. And I also have a blog on Medium called Alex's Opinions, where I write about politics and movies and all the interesting stuff, including the first Mrs. Doubtfire movie.
Oh, you wrote about that?
Yeah.
I need to read that.
I love that movie.
I do too. Mixed feelings, but like some of it is a little wrong-headed, but a lot of it's great.
As movies are,
right? Yeah.
Like, who among us is perfect? Half the stuff I write, I look back at, and I'm like, ooh, that was real. That was really a take, Alex. And yeah, support trans people. Put a trans person on your couch, or donate to a trans mutual aid fund. Trans people need your support right now.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Alex.
It was a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Forgotten Video Store. Look, if you enlist 3 people to listen to this podcast, and those 3 people also enlist 3 people to listen to this podcast, and so on, then we'll create the biggest obscure movie review show on the planet, and also we'll get rich, I think, though I haven't finished reading the Wikipedia article about pyramid schemes. Remember a few years ago when there were a bunch of creepy clown sightings? No? Well, it happened. Google it. Next week, we'll review a movie that takes a look at that cultural moment from the clown's point of view. Forgotten Video Store is a slop-free zone. We never use any AI for any part of the production of this podcast, and shame on the makers of Mrs. Doubtfire 2 for stooping to such dog shit. The music in this episode is Funky Energy Loop by Kevin MacLeod and Compotech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Okay, bye!